What's up guys? Welcome back to the channel and thanks so much for joining me today for a review of the new Urban Decay Naked Wild West palette. We got reviews, we got swatches, we have 3 looks using this thing, so we got a lot of ground to cover. Let's go ahead and get started. So I gotta be honest when I say I didn't really have a desire to buy this when I first heard Urban Decay was coming out with another Naked palette. I wasn't all that enthusiastic about their last few Naked palettes. They just, not that they were bad necessarily, they just weren't what I've come to love and expect from the Naked collection. There was a lot of redundancies, like with the ultraviolet, just there's a lot of purple in there. And if you're into monochrome, obviously that is amazing, but for some reason that just none of them had given me the butterflies that like the original few Naked palettes had. And so I thought this one would pretty much be the same until I went to Ulta and saw this in person, and that's when I realized it pretty much checks every box I have for being a perfect palette. And I actually have a video here on YouTube where I talk about what makes my ideal palette, like the qualities in a palette. I name a couple of palettes in that video. If you want to go give it a watch, I'll link it down below, and you can click the I up here. At the end of this video, of course, please, you need to stay for this. This is an important announcement because it turns out this is an amazing palette and does it all, and here's why I think that. First of all, it has a wide shade range. Like we have all the way from this, light sort of eggshell cream shade all the way to these deep, dark, smoky matte shades. A deep, what do we call this? Like a teal and then a deep smoky gray. Like we have, it's not just a bunch of shades right in the middle of a shade spectrum. We have variety. We also have contrast. We have both warm and cool tones in here, and what I love about that in a palette that has so many different eyeshadows like an Urban Decay Naked palette does is it means you can do an entirely cool look. You can do an entirely warm look. I've actually done both. I'm wearing more of a cool look today, and in the last video I uploaded it was an entirely warm look, and of course you can mix the two together, and so you have that kind of versatility, but especially because these are contrasting shades, like literally blue undertones, blue-green undertones, and red undertones, they pop so nicely against each other when you wear them together. And I have a couple examples of that in the looks I created using this palette. So tons of versatility in your shade selection. And then lastly, you also have a lot of variety in your textures. You have lots of really buttery, good quality mattes in here, both light and deep. You also have shimmers. Some of them are like iridescent over effects. Some are fully, surprisingly, some of these shadows surprise me. You have fully opaque, very bold and bright shimmery shades in here, and some of them are like high shine metallics. You just have a little bit of everything in this palette, and again, it means you can do an entirely shimmery look, an entirely matte look, or whatever the two of those together makes. To me, this palette kind of gives you everything. It can do your everyday eye look, but you can also really amp it up in terms of shade intensity and color intensity to do something a little bit more fun and creative if you want to. And to me, that makes a palette an everyday kind of palette because it is an all occasions, all seasons sort of situation. So that is why I ended up picking up this palette, and because the shadows are good quality, it turns out I really, really like it, in case that wasn't obvious. Of course it was obvious. And of course, like every Naked palette, in case you're not familiar with the Naked palette collection, they come in these hard case, most of them come in hard cased rectangular packaging. This one has this really beautiful snake skin where the coloring mimics the colors you'll find inside of the palette. Super beautiful. You open it up, there's a nice sized mirror. You also get a dual-sided brush, and I gotta say, I appreciate these brushes every time they come in a palette. I have brushes from the not the first, but I think the second Naked palette is when they started consistently putting brushes in there. Still have it. It has lasted all these years, so they're really well-made brushes, and they are really practical brushes. Like, you have a fluffy blending brush, it's amazing for crease work or just kind of messily applying and packing on a shade all over the lid. And then you have one that's more of a flat but still kind of fluffy packing brush that's good for, again, packing color on the lid, working in the inner corner, working on the lower lash line, just more precise work, and then you go back in with your blender. It's a killer duo when it comes to a dual-ended brush, and I always love that they put these in here because it's really, you know, a palette that you can take on the go, brush and all. I feel like the swatches are going to be very self-explanatory here. The mattes are very rich, very buttery, no chalkiness, no skipping or tugging when you apply them or build them up or blend them on the lid. The shimmery shades, like I said, they offer you some variety, like this gold one right here called Hold'em. That is actually more of like an iridescent effect sort of shadow. Like you get, unless you foil it with like a liquid mixing medium, if you use this dry, you're going to experience more of like a soft, flaky glimmer that goes across the lid unless you build it up. However, Cowboy Rick here, right beside it, this is like borderline high shine liquid metal metallic when you layer it up and build it on your lid. I love it from my inner corner or my brow bone like I'm wearing it today. Amazing shade. Bud, this light bright aqua blue here really surprised me. I was kind of expecting it to be a sheer blue shade, like an effect sort of shade. It is poppin'. It is very bright, very bold, and when you layer it, it is just as pigmented on the lid as you see in the pan. And then Rustler, I'm wearing this on my lid today, and even though it kind of looks like, I feel like it looks like, no, just your average kind of metallic, creamy copper shade, it's not too warm, which on my neutral skin tone, I find that things that are too warm can make me look a little sickly. Neither this Rustler nor the gold or the orangey Ghost Town shade next to it is too warm. They're both comfortably warm, I think. But Rustler in particular has a little bit of a complexity to it where it's like, it has a dark base. So if you layer it up, you get an intense copper or bronze. But if you shear it out, it has like this interesting deeper base that just makes it more complex, more subdued, but still interesting. You know what I mean? Really took me by surprise. And then these last 4 mattes over here are just like do-it-all matte shades, super pigmented, especially Ghost Town and Tex, which are the orangey and teal shades here at the end. I don't really have any bad things to say, but actually, no, yes I do. There is a little bit of redundancy here at the end. These lightest matte shades, kind of repetitive, especially when I wear them on my lids. I find they all look pretty similar. Like I can use them interchangeably. No one really makes a difference in a look. I feel like they could have condensed these to at least 2, but probably 1 shade to leave room for even more variety in texture or shades in this palette. But not a huge deal. I still really love the variety of looks that I've gotten in this from this palette so far. So yeah, Urban Decay's back? Did they ever leave? Maybe. I don't know. What do you think? This is like the best thing I've tried from Urban Decay in a very, very long time. Highly recommend it if you had your eye on it, you were kind of curious. Visually, it was just very pleasing to you. It's a nice palette. I really like it. Now let's get into the looks. I filmed 4 looks as I've been playing with it. 3 or 4? I think 4. 4 looks as I've been playing with this. I'm not going to talk over them. I'm just going to play some music and maybe annotate like some of the step-by-steps over top. And so let's get to it. Enjoy. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Really hope you liked it. Comment down below what your thoughts are on this palette, and let's get into the tutorials.